Hey families, it's Susan Seiler, and this tattered yellow paper folder is my, inside of it contains my tip to you on mastering your timeline or helping your student master their timeline. Oftentimes you run into problems where they have a really strong familiarity with it, where they can say 90% of it, they can sing all of it with the music, but there's just some recall areas that are spotty. Oftentimes it's after these areas such as, what comes after Age of Enlightenment or what comes after Age of Absolute Monarchs. A lot of times it's those sticky spots, and certainly practice of repeating and repeating is really helpful. Hand motions are also really helpful. So be sure to be doing those things you see in class. And the other thing you see in class is this version of where your tutor will write down the history sentence and they'll erase one or two words. And this is that concept, but for timeline in a self-study notebook. So I have a 3-prong paper folder. This is my math. You can look for my math video on the YouTube channel on how to master math. The struggle our children often have once they have a strong familiarity with the timeline is there are certain places they just get a little stuck. So if you've done the say and repeat, if you have given them some hand motions and they're still struggling, or you need something a little more self-study, my cat wants to play fetch. There we go. I implemented this in my home when Jonathan was 5. Even though he couldn't read all of these words, it was still really successful. And let me explain to you the concept. So these are just sheet protectors, and in the sheet protector I typed up the timeline and put the papers inside the sheet protector, double-sided. And if you're on my campus and you'd like this, let me know, because I know you all have the Foundations Guide. So I had him say the timeline while I followed along on these papers before I put them in the sheet protector. And then every time he got stuck on a word, I blacked it out. Do you see? You can still see it through there a little bit. Got it? But I would black it out with a Sharpie and then tell him the word so he could keep going. And then he would get stuck at another word and I would black it out. Now, obviously, I only did this when he was really familiar with the timeline. We don't want to have 90% of the document blacked out, right? This isn't something from like the CIA or something. So only redact things that are really necessary. And that way, what would happen when he would go through this himself, saying the words, he would get Age of Absolute Monarchs, something Reformation. And having all of this would help him recall this word, which is Protestant. So I was able to effectively help him recall a word he did not know from his own mind without having to give it to him. Because that was the circle we kept getting into. He would get stuck. Age of Absolute Monarchs. What is it? And I'd be like, I'd do a hand motion and he would just get blank. And so I'd say Protestant, and then he would be like, oh, right, Protestant, and then he would just continue going on. Even though we repeated it, all the techniques that we had successfully done in other areas, just with the sheer vastness of the timeline, he needed a different technique. And this was really successful because it forced the recall of the word. And we had to use this our first year, and we've never used it since. I still have it, but we've never needed to use it again because the timeline really is so solid. However, I would not hesitate to go back to this in a heartbeat. So I hope you understand what I am talking about. Due to copyright laws, I can't flip through all the pages here. I think I've already probably shown too much. But if you'd like to see it on the CC campus, just let me know and I can bring it in for you. I was just getting ready to upload the video and I realized maybe I didn't tell you clearly enough how I would use this in my home. Sometimes I would sit with my student. I mean, he was only 5 at the time. So sometimes I would sit with him and we would read it together. And I or sing it together, excuse me. We'd sing it, and as he was singing it, I would point to each of the words. And other times I expected him to sing it and point to each of the words. And then eventually it got to a point where he just had to keep up with whatever page he was on. So when he got to the end of, when he got to Council of Trent, he would turn it over and sing the other side, and he wouldn't have to point to everything. But he would be able to know where to go if he got stuck. And I did, obviously your student has to want Memory Master as much. Actually, they have to want it more than you want it for them. If you want it for them more than they want it, that's going to be a challenge. But if they really want Memory Master, then they're not going to cheat. Because they'll know they're just really, don't cheat. You only cheat yourself. So in that regard, I would ask Jonathan, when he ran into a word that he got stuck on that wasn't blacked out, to let me know so I could black that out, and that would help him recall next time. If you're running into resistance from your student in doing that, I would question if their heart was fully in the Memory Master process. Now, maybe you have an older student who's 11 or 12 and it's one of their last couple of years in CC, and Memory Master is not an option for them. Heart issues aside, Memory Master is not an option for them. That's certainly a different circumstance. But if you have a younger student, definitely ages 5, 6, 7, or if it's their first or second year in CC, it's really a question of, is this the right time for your student if they are struggling with some heart issues as well. I really hope this was helpful and it gave you a tip on how to master a timeline. And certainly if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to call me on the telephone. I'm so available. You can call me on the telephone, or you can email me or catch me on the CC day. That is a little harder, but not impossible by any stretch. Or text me just asking, like, hey, can we make a point to talk on Friday? And I will absolutely ensure that I am available to you. All right. I like you guys. I love you guys. I like you too. And I look forward to seeing you soon.